Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Melanie Cassar, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Daniel Crocker. We warmly welcome the family of Gunner James Henry Thurgood, who are watching the live stream of this evening's ceremony. His story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by the delegation from the Australian Tourism Exchange, students from Belgrave Heights Christian School, Victoria, and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Gunner James Henry Thurgood. James Thurgood was born in 1895 to James and Florence Thurgood of the Sydney suburb of Erskineville. He was educated at Newtown Public School and went on to work as a storeman. His mother died in 1910 and his father continued to raise James, his 3 brothers and 4 sisters. James Thurgood enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in January 1916 and began training with a group that would become the 8th Reinforcements to the 7th Field Artillery Brigade. Days before the group was meant to sail, the camp medical officer alleged that Thurgood had a disease and he was sent to quarantine camp on Milson's Island. After a mandatory 7 days there, it was demonstrated that he did not in fact have a disease. But by that time, it was too late to sail with his mates. Thurgood, who throughout his training proved to be a first-class soldier in every respect, was badly disappointed at being left behind. Later that year, he went missing from his military camp, and in November 1916, a warrant was put out for his arrest as a military deserter. On the 1st of November 1916, 2 privates went to Thurgood's house and found him in the backyard. They called out, "We are military police. I suppose you know what we want." Thurgood replied, "Yes," and went with them quietly. James Thurgood had gone home and found his father, the only carer for some of his younger brothers and sisters, seriously ill with a spinal problem. He stayed to help, and then, in his own words, "I stayed away and was almost too frightened to go back." Far from being afraid of going to war, Thurgood was still keen to serve and went back into military camp. He left Australia for active service overseas in March 1917 with reinforcements to the 7th Field Artillery Brigade and reached the battlefields of the Western Front the following August. Thurgood's military discipline was exemplary from that point on. He was transferred to the 8th Field Artillery Brigade and served throughout the winter of 1917 and 1918. In April 1918, the 8th Field Artillery Brigade were drawn into the fight to stop the German Spring Offensive. Thurgood was with the brigade as they fought desperately at Dernancourt and later at Villa Breitnow, firing long barrages to try to stop massing German attacks. Their position was always at risk of attack from the German artillery, and they regularly had to deal with gas attacks while trying to keep their rate of fire as high as possible. On the 11th of May 1918, several batteries of the 8th Field Artillery Brigade came under attack from an accurately fired German barrage. Although the 108th Battery took the brunt of the fire, the 31st Thurgood's Battery also took heavy fire. Gunner James Thurgood was killed in action, probably by a random shell fired by the German artillery in the hope that it would reach his gun's general area. His body was recovered and he was buried at Caerau British Cemetery, where he lies today. James Thurgood was 23 years old. His name is listed on the honour roll to my right, among 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Gunner James Henry Thurgood, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.